exercise 4.4 in which we're constructing a 3D model of a shop. In the previous exercise, we constructed a 3D conveyor. We constructed a footprint for the shop. The conveyor is located in the center of the shop. We imported benches from previous exercise 4.3, and we reported a stick figure for a small female from 4.3. And we also brought the dimensions along with those as well for the reach limits of the female. So the thing I want to do now is actually complete this construction of the building around the conveyor. As I mentioned before, we did that so that, or we delayed that because we didn't want to interfere with seeing the conveyor and the filling the shop. So actually what I'll do is just go ahead and hide the worker and the benches and the conveyor. And let's see, we've got those reach limits left in here. And we'll see if we can get rid of those. Okay, so now those are gone. Okay, so now let's make our walls and floor. And also we have to put a door in the end of this. In fact, let's map out where the door is going to go first. A door is 4 feet wide and 4 feet tall. So let's start out by creating a rectangle that's 1 foot. Let's get the rectangle tool here, and let's kind of start out locating it here. Oops, that's a circle. Let's just type RECT, so there's no ambiguity about that. I don't seem to be able to point and click this morning, so I'll just go over here, and I'm going to make this 4, 1. So there's something that's the length of the door, but it's wider than what or thicker than what the door will be, and you'll see why in a minute. The walls of the building are actually going to be 0.25 meters. So I'm going to come over here, and I want to just check my snap functions. So let's come back here. Oops, I'm sorry, snap and functions. I'll go to the right. Go down here to the icon. It looks like a little array of dots, and I'll go to settings and snap, object snap. So it snaps on endpoints, midpoints, and geometric center. And that's exactly what I want. So I'm going to type now move. I'm going to get this outline or this rectangle that would go around the door. I'm going to select that, and then for my base point I'm going to use the center of that space, and I'm going to move it here to the center of this line representing the wall and the short end. That's where my door is going to go, but again, it's wider than or thicker than the door. Okay, the door is going to be 4 feet high, so let's use our extrude command. We're going to use the solid extrude command for this. Extrude, and make sure that, check our mode to make sure that's set for solid. Okay, and now I'll select my object, which is this rectangle, turn, move it up, and we're going to make it 4 meters high. So let's type 4, and there's a box around my door. Okay, so next thing is let's go ahead and construct our walls. And I see right here that my box is gray and the rectangle representing the floor is blue. So that tells me my door isn't in the layer for the shop, and that's because the base layer 0 is the actual active layer here. So let's make that active. So let's first of all get the door, and we'll switch that to shop. Okay. And that makes shop active up there. Great. So let's type return, and that flipped us back to 0. So let's go back and make sure shop is active. Okay, got it. Okay. Oh, didn't get it. Pay attention here. Shop. Okay. There's a lot of detail in these menu structures, and it's just easy to put your cursor not quite on the object or on the icon that you want, and you don't get the result that you want. Okay, so there's the outline of the shop, there's the door, or where the door goes. So the next thing is to actually make our walls. Now there's 2 ways to do this. If you look in the previous video, you'll see we actually created 2 boxes, one inside the other, and we subtracted the inside one from the outside one. And that's probably one of the most common ways you'll see to do this, but actually I think a little slicker way to do this is to use the Polysolid tool. And I'll show you how that works. It's like the poly line, except it's going to make a solid. So let's go poly solid, like this. Nope, nope. Polysolid. Okay, spell it correctly and it'll work. Okay, now there's several things to check on this. Now this is probably going to be set up for me the way I want it because I've done this exercise before to demonstrate to the class. But I'm going to put, you can see one of the options here is height. And we want our walls to be 6 meters high, so I'll just check to see what is set for height. Height, it says 6 meters. Okay, that's fine, so we'll just leave it where it is. And I'll type return, and we'll check the width. We want that to be 0.25 meters. So I'll type, type width first, W-I-D-T-H. And it's default set for 0.25, so I'll leave that where it is. If it weren't, I'd just type 0.25. And then there's something called justify. And this specifies, let's type this first, justify. And this specifies whether the wall that we create goes to the right, left, or on top of this line that we create. And we want this to be right justified, okay, which was the default word is before. Okay, so now all I gotta do is start clicking the points that I want to connect my Polysolid, just like I did with the poly line. So I'll start here with this leftmost corner of the bench, or the factory. Go down to the top corner, come across to the far right corner, and then there. Okay, come across here to the lower corner, and just like with the polyline tool, I'll type C for close, and now I've got my walls. And I can see where the door goes, but that box that I created for the door actually sticks out a little bit. So I'm going to actually now use the subtract command to remove that. So I'll select the factory as my first choice, and then I'll select the box I created for the door as my second, and it's gone. Okay, so we got the walls, we got the door. The only thing that's missing now is the floor. We've got a rectangle representing the floor, and we can convert that to a solid surface using the convert to surface tool. So that will be convtosurface, like that. And it says select the object, so I'll just click on the rectangle and type return, and now I've got a floor. All right, so let's make this, right now this is composed of two different objects. I've got one object for the floor and one object for the walls. Let's go ahead and make those a group so we don't accidentally lose our floor or walls, and we can always ungroup it if it gets in our way later. So now we've got the walls for the factory. And let's go ahead and turn on our other layers and see if we can see where the conveyor goes. So the conveyor, it should be on, but it doesn't show up from this view. So let's just orbit a little bit here and see if we can get a little peek inside. Maybe something like this. I'm going to turn it here so we can see where the door goes to, through the door. Okay, looks pretty good. And let's put our benches, show our benches. Okay, the benches are there. And now there's the 5 percentile female. So actually that looks pretty good. So the next thing to do is to actually import your 95 percentile male workers and position them at the benches on the other side, and then you're done. And I'll let you do that one on your own. Thank you very much for your attention.